Hi everybody and welcome to Astro Pillars Astrology. We're going to talk about the Jupiter-Venus conjunction, and my name's Samuel Dudgeon. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine, that being acupuncture and herbal medicine. I am also practicing astrologer, planetary and Chinese astrology, that being Bazi, and we're going to look at this conjunction. So if you guys are into this material, just feel free to subscribe. Check out the other videos I have on cell salt astrology. I did a whole series of that, which I converted over to my Substack channel as well. So please join that if you guys are into reading and about all this kind of stuff. And a lot of my astrology stuff is probably more based on the health lines, but I'm just starting to branch out a little bit more and talk about a few different things, a little bit on the astro weather and that kind of things. But I try and make my videos a little bit short if I can, make it all nice and concise for people. Now, yeah, we have this conjunction coming up. I think it's around the 11th or 12th of this month. I think it's a monumental one especially for the Taurus rising and Libra rising, because you're ruled by Venus, and of course the Piscean and Sagittarius rising because you're ruled by Jupiter. So those planets are key. They're steering the ship of your destiny, and whatever's Lord in our chart in astrology, well, then we need to pay attention to how it's moving in the skies, right? That's really important, especially when it ingresses into new signs like Venus just has into Cancer. And so I think this combination obviously is a good one and a positive one. Jupiter being a benefic, and in conjunction with in conjunction with Venus, gives a nice expansive warm quality, right? Venus is a planet is warm and moist, and I think Jupiter has that kind of temperament to it as well. So probably not as moist as Venus, but these kind of planets, when they come together, and when we look at health and things like this, well, if we looked at this from a Chinese medicine point of view, obviously these two planets together can affect blood sugar and blood sugar levels, right? So the Virgo rising, I think someone who's got it in the 6th house coming up in this, it's the Aquarius rising. Sorry, I'll go through the rising signs at the end. But these planets together from a health perspective can generate a lot of moisture and dampness, right? Jupiter's all about excesses and can affect blood sugar levels and all these kind of things, right? So what the Chinese would call, in Chinese medicine, we call it dampness, right? So there are not so many positives when it comes to these kind of things. It's not all wonderful. There's always yin and yang with things, right? When it comes to planetary combinations, conjunctions, and things like this, right? But let's just talk a little bit about Venus ingressing into Cancer, because Venus is a planet, is how we want to feel appreciated and express affection, and how we give of self, right? And it's deeply connected to selfhood, self-esteem, how we value ourselves, right? And and Venus in the sign of Cancer likes to express itself sensitively, comfortably, and protectively, because Cancer is a very protective sign, and it also likes to nurture and be nurtured, and it loves to feel part of a family and feel comfortable, right? And also it likes to share energy with others in an enclosed, kind of close-knit group, right? Quite a cliquey sign Cancer is. It's quite protective. And it's very easily can easily reflect other people's pleasures and moods, right? So people with Venus in Cancer can really pick up on atmospheric conditions, right? Within one's particularly family environment, right? Because Cancer's like that. So you can be really sensitive to the feelings of others in your family. Now, as we all know, and most people do, and if you don't, well, Jupiter is considered one of the planets of growth and expansion. And I think the last time, and people can comment write a comment below, but I think the last time Jupiter was in Jupiter-Venus conjunction in Cancer was around 2001 in August. So quite a long time ago. And so Jupiter in Cancer will generally seek growth, because Jupiter is how we seek growth within ourselves, and wherever it's placed in our chart, then that's the areas of where we're going to feel positive and want to expand, right? Expand our knowledge, expand our wisdom, expand our understanding of whatever area in the chart it's in. So it seeks growth through development of family values when it's exalted, and it's exalted in this sign, which means it's in an elevated state. Jupiter likes to be in Cancer. And so it seeks growth through development of family values and an emotional supportiveness. So this is going to be a really good time for family, and a wonderful time for connecting up emotionally with others. Right? This is an important thing, and you know, for those who are scared about, afraid of that, it's a good time to tune into your own sensitivity and your vulnerability. And I think a lot more people will be coming out, or want to come out. It's in the Venus at the moment is in a difficult angled square Saturn, so there's going to be maybe people will feel quite shy and not as confident as coming out at the moment. But I think as it starts to move away from that, people will slip into it more, because when Venus squares Saturn, right, we can feel very vulnerable when it comes to relationships, very sensitive and somewhat closed as well. Anyway, but Jupiter-Venus conjunctions on the positive, right? Let's talk about the positives. I personally think Jupiter's a planet of philosophy, so Jupiter-Venus conjunctions can show philosophical compatibility between others, shared values, relationships with a value on growth, philosophy, like I said, travel, and also love of foreign cultures. So Jupiter and Venus can exude qualities of charm, sophistication, and there's no doubt, right, at this time, there's going to be there's going to be a lot of intensity of social energy. That is for sure. That's one thing we can rely on here, because this is the good life when these two planets come together, so to speak. But I think, if people know people with this Jupiter-Venus conjunctions in hard aspects in charts, right? Because there's always a dark side to these, yin and yang, right? We've always got to always be thinking yin and yang. Well, obviously I do for my job, but obviously, with astrology, we need to look. We can't just look at the bright side of things, right? We need to look at the flip side of things as well. So on the darker side, Jupiter-Venus can have an inflated sense of one's attractiveness, right? Vanity and conceit. Because Jupiter can inflate things, right? Especially people's egos, in certain aspects. But so people can have, they can be quite pretentious, snobby, and they can be a little bit, have a sense of false happiness. They can have the desire for everything to be nice and glamorous all the time, with a real reluctance to face the shadow of life. These types can be potentially spoiled and privileged. When imbalanced from a health perspective, right, it can make one crave sweets all the time. The sweet tooth, right, can have this. And, medically, right, Jupiter and Venus has quite a warm and moist quality to it, and Jupiter is quite that way as well. Not as moist, I don't think, from memory, for Venus. But in terms of these two planets coming together from a health perspective, they can generate a lot of dampness, right? Or benign cysts, which are phlegm in Chinese medicine, phlegm dampness, right? That's when people can get the lipomas and things like this. But Jupiter conjunctions also, I just went on a bit of a health tangent there, but Jupiter-Venus conjunctions can be prone to hedonistic tendencies, right? Constantly wanting everything good. The love of shopping, extravagance, overindulgence, materialism. There can be the pursuit of social status, prestige, this kind of things, having friends in higher places for alliances for material gain, this kind of thing. And so recently, we have, it was a few days, but the square's still operating, right? Venus has currently been transiting. Previously it was in Gemini, now it's moved and it's made a square and squaring the north and south nodes, right? Which is another thing to consider at this time. Like the south node being in conjunction with Mars in Virgo, bringing up some tensions and defining moments actually in relationships. Because Mars is in Virgo at the moment, so the relationships can be around work and also personal. So when Venus squares the nodes, we can be pressured to make choices in relationships, right? And they can be personal ones as well as work ones. This is another thing to consider at this time. And it's interesting because, like I said before, the square was affecting Saturn, and obviously the square is affecting Neptune as well, right? Because those two planets are in conjunctions at the moment. So I guess at this time, right, there can be a test of values in relationships, because potentially we can see things through rose-colored glasses when Neptune is square Venus, and it can challenge us to look at the reality of our relationships. Have we been delusional, or do I have something real and tangible here? The Saturn square Venus will challenge our values within the relationship of our self-esteem. But either way, right, there can be some rude awakenings in relationships when these two aspects comes together, because, they can strip away illusions and force us to face reality in our relationship. And then, of course, it's not a problem, right, if you connected and you have a rock-solid relationship, but it might just force us to strip away a few layers and not fool ourselves to face certain issues we may be having in them. But generally, right, Jupiter in Cancer is exalted in this sign, right, like I said before, so it brings wisdom, abundance, this kind of thing, joy, travel, and growth. And there can be huge growth when it comes to family at this time. As Cancer rules families, people probably want to feel more connected to the family unit at this time. Maybe a lot of family issues will be coming up in the media, because it'll play out on that mundane level as well. But I'll just keep it to the personal at the moment. But the Venus-Jupiter conjunction is at 13 degrees, which is an Aries degrees, right? So we'll want to take action within our own home environments as well, or action to do with our families. And so I think at this time, it's going to be an incredible time for good luck when it comes to finances, relationships, and as well as some incredible personal growth at this time. And an excellent time, right, for that. There's going to be a lot of good vibes in general, but an incredible time for growth, personal growth. And that's a really, really good thing. We're going to quickly run through the rising signs in connection with the Jupiter-Venus conjunction, starting with Aries, which will play out through the 4th house. So there'll be action on the emotional and soul level, right? A lot of expansion and growth through this area of the chart, which is connected to deepening of the family roots. There can be long-term talks about security in the home environment, and it's also one of the houses of psychic sensitivity and intuitive abilities. So it is a good time for this. A lot of people don't think of this house on that level. It's one of the deep houses at the bottom of the chart. It's a watery house, and obviously it is connected to Cancer, So it's a really good time to tune in into those abilities. And of course, digging into the past, ancestral roots, is really, really important. And I think people will find a lot of peace and possibly even growth and expansion around that, understanding their roots, which is really, really important. And there can be a really strong desire for peace in family surroundings at this time. So a really good time to connect and explore things within the family unit. Then we've got Taurus in the third. So this house is there's an emphasis on learning and on the social and intellectual level. So there can be a love of learning at this time, and especially with Jupiter in this house, there can be a lot of ability to attract good teachers. And you'll probably be interested in a wide range of subjects, and I would suggest that if there's something you really love doing, then really pursue it at this time, because it can really open things up for you. There can be a fondness for brothers and sisters, maybe reconnect, a lot of heartfelt conversations between them. A really good time for creative projects, and extremely good time for that, actually. Really put things out there on that level. It's important for the Taurian types to do this at this time. And like I said, extremely, extremely good. So, and when I talk about learning subjects, it's a really good time to, it's more to do with short-term learning, short projects, like workshops and things like this. This house kind of tends to rule, as opposed to the 9th house, which is maybe higher education, that kind of thing. So really, really, if there's something you really wanted to explore, go for it at this time and explore the intellect as best you can. And now Gemini and Gemini rising, it's going to play out in the 2nd house, with a lot of emphasis on material security and values, how we value ourselves, this kind of thing. And Jupiter, like I said, I haven't said this, but it's all about faith too. So faith that the earth will provide me with what I need, because the 2nd house has a Taurian kind of subtone to it. So it is connected. It's a very earthy house. That's why we want to produce. We want to expand our financial portfolio, so to speak. But also, it can be a time for making a major purchase of some kind. Because when we've got Jupiter in this house, we want to usually make a big financial transaction of some kind. It's a really good time to attract what we need and value. But the only thing I would be concerned about is just watch out for overspending, because sometimes we can overextend ourselves when these planetary configurations come in, because the Jupiter-Venus conjunction can all be about indulgences. So the Cancer rising there will experience it in the 1st house. And this house is like the house of identity and action, right? It rules the body. So at this time, right, if our vitality and health hasn't been that good, then it can be a really good time for the body. We may experience higher energy levels, and then we'll get a very good optimistic outlook on life. We tend to have an upbeat temperament at this time. Many opportunities for success at this time. Within ourselves, we can develop this innate sense of confidence. Right? And there's a natural urge to relate to others with sensitivity, especially with this conjunction in Cancer in this house, right? And there can obviously, we can develop a lot of love and respect for ourselves, and then also a lot of emphasis on our physical bodies. So there might be something that we actually really want to do to ourselves that make ourselves look really attractive and present ourselves as best we can in our immediate environment. And it's all about beautifying the self, so to speak. And Leo and Leo rising, we're going to have the Jupiter-Venus conjunction in the 12th house, which it's again another house, a watery house of learning on the emotional and soul level as well. So there can be an inner generosity of spirit at this time, and rest and recuperation, because the 12th house is all about the hidden, wanting to retreat, to restore our body's constitution, restore our health. It's a very good time for healing alone. We can have inner reflections on love and values, and reflect maybe on past relationships, the ones that haven't kind of worked out, and maybe just get a more intuitive understanding, waiting for some creative downloads we can receive through dreams or something like this, because 12th house is a lot related to the house of sleep. There can be a lot of creative development behind the scenes. We can also have faith and trust in God and the spirit. And then also, it can be a good time too, some people, because the 12th house rules film, maybe get right into romantic movies and this kind of thing, and reminiscence of all this kind of romantic adventures we've had in the past. But it's a good time to reflect on previous relationships and have those inner reflections on our own love and values. So with Virgo and Virgo rising, they're going to have the Jupiter-Venus conjunction in the 11th, which is another social and house of social and intellectual security. And there can be wanting to connect with larger communities, right? And which can give us a feeling of prosperity and expansion. You know, we can want to be with people who have our similar worldview, and we're seeking positive influence to groups. We want to experience groups that share our own values, and there can be a need for just a really strong connection with like-minded people at this time. It's also the house of hopes and wishes, right? So I think when Jupiter and Venus are in this house, then really put out there what we really want to attract in others, to network, social, or even if we want a partner, really put it out there that we want to meet these people in this group situations, right? Attract like-minded people. Now we've got Libra and Libra rising in the 10th house, and this can be action on the material level, because traditionally this is a Capricornian house. And so there can be a lot of emphasis on success in the affairs of the world, in business, profession, or political or social life, right? The 10th house is an ambitious house, but I think the Libra rising, this is good, because having the Jupiter-Venus conjunction in this house, traditionally you're going to have Cancer on the cusp of the 10th house, or the midheaven, which can make you appear really kind of sensitive and shy and not really want to reveal yourself out to the world as much. But when we have Jupiter and Venus in this conjunction in this house, then we can really want to have a positive career, or and really want to make good steps within our career and have the confidence to put ourselves out there to get the professional recognition we may be seeking, and it can be a good time to actually receive that. So it can be a valuable time, and for our career. So, and there could be potential travel, of course. Jupiter's linked to that. For those who are not in a relationship, maybe you may meet someone professionally through the professional work life, but it's a very good time for expansion and growth within career. Now we've got the Scorpio rising in the 9th house, and there can be an emphasis on learning on the level of identity, right? The 9th house is the higher mind, open knowledge, right? There can be a love of wisdom at this time in higher education with Jupiter-Venus conjunction there. We can actually discover who we are beyond the surface level with this placement. So there could be potential travels, meeting a partner, meeting a foreigner overseas. But it's a time when Venus can give us peace, actually, at this time in our belief system, right? So if we're developing a belief system or a philosophy of some kind, Venus can make us feel really content with that as well. But ideally, right, it is a very good time to explore the philosophies, the higher wisdoms, and really be open to learning education, and that could be around all foreign cultures. You could be really attracted to going to foreign places at this time with this transit. Now, with Sagittarius rising in the 8th house, there can be, and this is a deep house, the 8th one. It's a very private house, again, and with an emphasis on emotion and soul security. So there can be, with Jupiter here, there can be real enthusiasm for exploring the deeper laws of life, right? This is the house of the occult. And, you know, there could be a real interest in exploring the taboo, the dark side of life, the shadow. And, or if we've been going through a lot of emotional problems, then we may have the courage and optimism to face our own shadows at this time and need time to explore it alone. It's a good time for emotional intimacy, and start to the Venus-Jupiter conjunction here can make us feel really comfortable, really exploring that, sharing and opening up. It can be an opportunity for joint finances with others, paying off debts, good for investing and financial partnerships as well. But overall, this is a really deep house, the 8th house, and Jupiter-Venus here will give you the courage to explore that kind of terrain. So Capricorn in the 7th, this is another house with the action on the soul and intellectual level. This time, you know, with the Jupiter-Venus conjunction here, you can be really influenced by others, especially partners, in a good way. So you may find your partner gives you a lot of support at this time, and that can also be personal and professional partnerships at work. You can really attract at work what you really value, or the work partners can reflect your own values as well. So it's a really good time for relationships, and a very good time for sensitivity to the needs of others in partnerships as well. There's going to be a lot of expansion and growth and optimism at this time around those subjects. And we've got Aquarius rising with, you'll be experiencing a Jupiter-Venus conjunction in the 6th house, which is learning on the material level. So everyday routines, this is a house of daily routines, can become more harmonious at this time. There's a level of optimism in the work environment, and there's an improvement in work surroundings. And also this house has a lot to do with the moods generally, so you'll feel really good at this time and optimistic just on a daily basis, right? Venus is the planet of warmth and moisture, and obviously, and I think if I remember correctly, Jupiter is around that as well. Well, why I'm saying this is because this is a house of health, right? So the Venus-Jupiter conjunction can give rise, from a Chinese medical point of view, to a lot of dampness, and which can make the body a little bit heavy, lethargic, and tired, so to speak. But also the Jupiter-Venus conjunction rules the blood sugar levels as well, and so it's important, if you've got these kind of issues or weight issues, right, to really focus on them and improve them at this time, because it can be a good chance to do this. So definitely seek alternative practitioners if you can, if you have these issues. Acupuncture herbs are really good at balancing blood sugar levels and resolving phlegm. And phlegm, you know, Jupiter-Venus from a health perspective can usually give things like lipomas and stuff like that, more those benign type phlegmy lumps in the body. So yeah, a good time to look after yourself and take care of yourself. Now with Pisces rising, you're going to be experiencing this in the 5th house, and this can be this is another house of identity, security, and it's also how it's all about improving one's attitude to life here. It's an excellent time for creativity, and it's the house of taking risks, right? Because the 5th house is all to do with, they say, gambling, and speculation, risks, this kind of thing. But in order to grow, right, which Jupiter demands, then we need to take risks of some kind. So taking risks to grow in confidence, right? This is what develops self-esteem, the Venus aspect, right? So Jupiter Venus here is telling you, take the risk, and taking the risk, you're going to expand your self and your self-worth. And very good time. Romance could be huge at this time because of the Venus-Jupiter conjunction here. And I would also say with the Piscean ascendant that it's really good at this time because Pisces rules the kind of word and the poet. So it's a good time to write poetry and things like this. So, you know, and when Venus is in this kind of house, you know, if anything's worth doing, then do it in style. So that's just my little quick take on the Jupiter-Venus conjunction. There's obviously a lot of other aspects that play out here. This is pretty general, what I've just said, but I'm just giving you guys a bit of a flavor for what's going on. If you want to understand more and things like this, how it specifically relates to your chart dynamics, then of course it's always important to get full chart readings. So thanks for listening, and we'll be in touch soon.